You lucky, lucky ducks. Math 763 notes. The first thing I want you to do on not only having out your packet and a pencil, but grab a calculator. Some of our favorite things ever. You do need to understand what to do when there is a decimal coefficient, but we are going to just shove that into our calculator with our one-step equations. That way we are ready for decimals with two-step equations or multi-step equations, obviously more than two. So have a calculator out because you are going to try some of these without me and have to put them into a puzzle. So make sure that you have that calc with you so you're all ready to go. I've given you lots of time. This first one, you should be masters at solving one-step equations at this point in time. So in order to get this variable a all by itself, we are going to start with that line down the center. Do you have to do that? Answers no. We are going to divide by this entire term or coefficient of negative 1.6. So since we did it on that side, you're also going to do it over here. We end up with a final answer of a equals. I know that my final answer is going to be negative. Then when I take 408 divided by 1.6, I end up with 255. So again, just a quick check to make sure that this for sure is the correct answer. Instead of the letter A, you're going to replace it with negative 255 and equals 408. So then when you shove in this portion into your calculator, we do in fact get that 408 equals 408. So I know for sure that I have the correct answer. Okay, so we've done one together. You now are going to pause the video and try number 2 on your own. Go ahead and pause. All right, take a look at my final answer. 0.2 equals m, and I'm done, right? Wrong. Make sure that you switch these ones around. Always have the variable on the left side because you're telling me what that variable represents. So m equals 0.2. Box in our final answer. Notice that whatever I showed on one side, I did on the other. I used that entire coefficient negative 17.6. So if you have incorrect notes, if you did not get 0.2, I want you to fix your notes, please. And we are going to quickly do a check. So negative 3.52 equals negative 17.6, and I'm going to replace the point or the m with 0.2, and then when I multiply these two things out, I do in fact get negative 3.52 equals negative 3.52. So I know for sure I do have the correct answer. All right, let's look at some fractions. Alrighty, so this next example is a little bit different, and that now I have a fraction coefficient. So my fraction coefficient, normally this is telling me to take negative 1/2 times x. So the work that we would normally see if this were just like a decimal or the number 4, is we would divide both sides by this number. So divide by 1/2, divide by 1/2. Now I'm going to pause you. So if you've already started writing that, go ahead and erase. Whenever we divide by a fraction, remember back to our fraction unit of chapter 4, I believe. We instead did not divide by two fractions, but instead we need to multiply by the reciprocal. Remember, keep, change, flip. So instead of that work, I'm going to put a big fat X through that so we can see how much easier this one is going to be. 7 equals negative 1/2 x. You can rewrite or you can erase, totally up to you. Instead of dividing by negative 1/2, I am going to multiply by this reciprocal. So remember back to reciprocals, we just flip. The numerator goes to denominator, denominator to numerator. So I'm now going to multiply by negative 2/1. But since I've done it on this side, you also need to do it over here. So times negative 2/1. And again, the negative is just saying the fraction 1/2 is negative. So that's why I like putting it out front. If you want to always put the negative up in the numerator, that is fine. But do not put a negative up in the numerator and down in the denominator. Okay? So the reason that we multiply by the reciprocal is take a look on the right side. All of this cross simplifies. So all I have left on the right side is an x. And then on the left side, you can put this over 1 if you would like, or we can just see it's negative 2 times 7. So negative 2 times 7 gives us a negative 14. Final answer? Switch them around. So x equals negative 14. Box in that final answer. And again, I can do a quick check. Here's my quick check. 7 equals negative 1/2 times negative 14. So that's like negative 14/1. This quickly cross simplifies to 7. So negative times a negative is a positive. So 7 does in fact equal 7. It checks out. We have the right answer. All right, next thing, you're going to pause the video, and I want you to try number 4 by yourself. Go ahead and pause. Alrighty, number 4, you want to take the coefficient that is attached to the variable. That's the one that you are flipping. So even if the negative 6/7 m were to be on the right side of the equal sign, make sure that you're always using that fraction that's attached to the variable, the coefficient, in order to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to switch these around. 7 over negative 6. Notice I kept my negative down in the denominator to show you it's totally okay if I do that as well. But again, I'm just saying in general, this fraction is negative, this fraction is negative, so therefore I'm going to end up with just m on this side once I cross simplify all of the things. But remember, whatever you do on one side, we also need to do over here. So times by 7 over negative 6. Hopefully you have something similar to this. A negative times a negative gives us a positive. If you would like to just multiply straight across, feel free. I don't like living in big number land. Instead, I like simplifying. So I divide by 3, I get 2. Divide by 3, I get 1. Same thing over here. Divide by 7, I get 2. Divide by 7, I get 1. So that's when I like multiplying straight across. Our final answer here is 1/4. Again, we could do a quick check, but we are going to go ahead and move on since we have, in fact, checked 3 of the 4 questions. All right, let's look at some word problems. Some word problems, everybody's favorite. We're going to do one together, and then I'm going to have you try one on your own once we help set up the equation, since obviously this is the first time we've seen decimal or fraction coefficients. So number 5, that's Alice and Maddie's. Love me some ice cream. It costs $3.54 per single scoop waffle cone. So we know that that's probably some pretty important information. Let's go ahead and underline that important information. Everything else, who cares? Yes, we love Alice and Maddie's, but we also love Baskin Robbins. Love me some Dairy Queen, of course. But with this information, we're going to write and solve an equation to find how many of these cones you could buy with a $20 gift card. We know that that is probably pretty important stuff as well. That's how much money I have. So between those two things that I have just underlined, I have $3.54 per single scoop waffle cone. And then I have $20 gift card to write and solve an equation to find how many of these cones you could buy. So what I don't know is actually indicated right here. It says how many of the cones. I don't know that. So for our variable, you can use whatever variable you would want. I like staying very boring with the x. So x is going to be the number of cones. I'm trying to figure out how many cones I can buy if each one is $3.54 and I got a $20 gift card. With this information, per we know is to multiply. And this is what I don't know. This is my x. So for writing this equation, you're going to have $3.54 x. And that whole thing is going to equal $20. So the next thing is we're going to solve this out. So $3.54 x equals 20. Draw a line down the center. To get x by itself, you take this coefficient, and we're going to divide both sides by that coefficient. So divide by a 3.54, and then divide by 3.54. We're going to shove that into our trusty calculators. We end up with x equals 5.6497, blah, 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 blah. Who really actually cares? The reason being, if you're buying cones and I'm wanting to buy 5.6497 blah, 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 blah cones, are we going to round that sucker up to 6 cones? Could we purchase 6 cones? The answer is no. So therefore, our sentence needs to say, we could purchase 5 cones, period. The reason you can't round up to 6 is because we don't have enough money. They'd say, you still owe us some cents, and you say, I don't have any. Okay, so therefore our final answer is 5 cones. The last one you are going to try on your own about Mr. Jones. He estimated that it's 9/10 of the students who went to the track meeting will actually participate in track this year. We're going to write and solve an equation to find how many students went to the meeting if he thinks that there will be 270 students participating. So some important info here. I'm going to kind of get us started, and then I'm going to let you finish. So 9/10 of the total students. So 9/10 of the total students went to the track meet, are going to, or to the meeting, are going to participate in track. Right, and solve an equation to find how many students went to the meeting. That's what we do not know. A lot of times I will give you that variable in the question, even though the last sentence is not a question. Yes, I realize that. But find how many students went to the meeting if he thinks that there will be 270 that participate in track. So for defining that variable, I've already helped us out big time. Then for writing the equation, we are going to take 9/10 of the total people. Notice all of my green has to do with the exact same part of that variable. And then that final answer is going to be 270. So use that. I want you to solve the equation, write a sentence, and make sure that your variable is in fact defined. Go ahead and pause the video. All right, take a look. I found my variable x is the total students at the meeting. Then I also multiplied by the reciprocal rather than wasting time by dividing by a fraction. So our final answer is x equals 300. And then my sentence, there will be 300 students that attend the meeting. Notice the nice period at the end of the sentence, capital letter at the beginning. Hopefully you understand 6-3 notes with rational coefficients just means decimals. And remember, for the decimals, we did use a calculator. Yes, calculator. However, for the fractions, you may not use a calculator. I repeat, for fraction coefficients, you may not use a calculator. You have to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, good luck on your problems.